Whenever you're ready, I'm on deck.
All right, it's loading up now, so we should be live in about 3, 2, 1. Yeah, all right, so it's loading up.
Yeah, there we go.
All right, all right, all right, all right. Peace to the family. Peace to everyone that is here. Peace to everyone that is here. I'll give everybody a couple seconds while I pull my own channel up. Bear with me, y'all, and we'll get it in. So you guys know, those of you who will be coming in, we are going to be talking about Doctor Strange 2. We're going to try not to put spoilers in here.
Yeah,
We possibly can. That may be an impossibility when we're talking about this particular film, but the best I can promise is we won't spoil the ending for you. How's that? What do you think, Mike? You think we could do that?
I do my best, man. I don't want to make no promises, man.
Right.
I do my best.
Right.
I would say, man, if you haven't watched it, man, I don't, to be honest, it was one of those movies that, okay, I only seen it once.
Okay.
I went with my kids. I actually, until we spoke, I told myself I was going to watch it at least once or twice more for the little things I didn't watch, because to be honest, I watched it like part of my decode brain was on, but I was just enjoying the film,
Yeah.
So if I can, I'll do my best. That's all I can promise. If it is a spoiler, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'll make sure of this much. Whatever I discuss on my end, I'll make certain that it only enhances when a person does watch it. I won't just take the whole aha moments from you. But man, to me, it was a good movie. To me, it was a real good movie.
Yeah, I think it was exceptional. And in particularly, exceptional the way it kind of simplified magic and the expression of the mystical arts, and kind of making it, I thought it was great because it was kind of like a mystery school exploration. If you look at from the beginning to where he was in a dream world and how we're born in a dream world, all the way down to the end to where, there was a learning aspect, but still another level to grow past even once you become enlightened. But the enlightenment was the main goal, and becoming magic was really the main goal.
Yeah.
So I guess we should let's just start with, and let me put the screen because I think we should both be side to side for this one. But let's just start with the beginning. Okay. Start with the first half. I call that Piece to Dream Wise. Start with the beginning, start with the first half, and kind of look at. I saw it. I'll tell you what I saw, Mike. I saw this as a exploration through the zodiac as well, right? Okay. And the reason I saw it as an exploration, I know you're a signs and symbols guy. If you remember, shortly after the first scene, when he first met with Wanda, which was the Lilith character, and I'll let you talk more to the Lilith portion of that. But when I saw the sheep, right, the sheep or the lamb or the ram of Aries, I was like, oh shit. And then certainly when they were in Carmitage, the next scene, they had the Taurus, right? So they had the Taurus, the bull.
Yeah.
I said, oh shit, all right, I see where they go with it.
Yeah.
It was like the big Aquarius, student, learning the mystical arts, studying and getting back, but also a level of enlightenment with the open third eye, or the first eye rather. So yeah, talk to us a little bit about what you saw in that first half with the whole mummy coming out. I'm just going to refresh you because I know you said you saw it once. And I took notes the second time, so I got a little more.
Okay, yeah.
But
okay, let me say this real quick before we get started. I want to back it up on the character of Doctor Strange. Everybody should know, but for those who don't, he was modeled after Pascal Randolph Beverly, who was a Black occultist, and he was a Freemason, but he was also a member of the Theosophical Society. He was instrumental in a lot of what we consider occultism today. A huge proportion of what we practice on a daily can be traced back to him. And so I think that it was fitting in terms of Doctor Strange when we see, and let me mention too, Pascal Randolph Beverly was melanated. He was a black man.
Yes, sir.
For those who don't know.
Yes,
okay,
sir.
So I just want to drop that little bit because there's huge, like in the poster you made for our get down today, you know, you put up there Freemasonry, and I don't think a lot of people nowadays, when they hear Freemasonry, they're thinking that somebody trying to lock down their chakras or, you know, trying to enslave them. And we also had Illuminati in this movie. But I just want to show that in the essence of this, the character of Doctor Strange, he has his sanctum sanctorum. That's where he goes to meditate and he rises to upper levels. Also, you remember in one of the opening scenes, when he's walking up those stairs in the sanctum sanctorum, you see that symbol. That is the symbol of, what is that symbol of? It's a Hindu symbol in his big glass round window.
Yes.
But I just wanted to get some background just on the character of Doctor Strange and his relationship to occultism. Now, personally, when I started watching, one of the first things that caught my attention was the fact that it started off, he used magic to tie his tie.
Yes.
Now, that caught my attention, and I realized why later on in the movie, because that goes back to his hands. Remember, in the first Doctor Strange movie, he had lost the use of his hands, and even later in the movie we've seen, I know we on the first half, but just to tie it in, later in the movie, if you remember, what was her name? His love, Christine. Yeah, Christine. Now remember, she pointed out that your hands are just like our Doctor Strange's hands. Mm-hmm. The trauma was there. So for me, it kind of set the tone that the movie was going to be based around trauma and how you deal with it in your magical workings. Yes. Now, today, we call that shadow work.
Yes.
And I think that it all panned out by the end of the movie. But just to stick to what I saw in that first half, I like the fact that we do eventually find out the nature of dreams. And I think that's something that today, most of the serious students of occultism have realized that this is the nature of dreams. It's parallel realities and multiverses. So another thing for me, I'm a big Kabbalah guy.
Yes.
And I know that when we talk multiverses, a lot of people think things like a Mandela effect. Mm-hmm. All that can be explained actually through Kabbalah, because in Kabbalah you have the tree of life, then you got the 4 worlds. Each world has a tree, and on each Sephiroth has a tree within it. So to me, that explains these multiverses that we travel through when we're asleep, these different realities that we experience while we're asleep. And it brings to mind, makes me wonder, is somebody sleeping and living my life? And when I don't know how mundane or how exciting they might think it is, but it brings it to mind though. But I'm trying to think of some more science that caught me just in those first opening moments in that first half.
What about the whole water to wine motif, where he turned water to wine when he was talking to Christine, right? And then shortly after, he fought the one-eyed monster, but he killed the one-eyed monster, which to me represented a perception or just an awakening of mundane consciousness, right? Mm-hmm. But how you could, if you're focused, because he killed that monster with a street light. He threw the street light into the eye of the monster. So to me, when I saw that, I was like, oh, that's symbolic of, being caught up in the streets, so to speak. Not just the streets physically, but being caught up in, like the Christians say, being in the world, right? Following trends, following every single thing that humanity does, just blindly following your animal nature without using reason or imagination. Just being caught up in the world as the level of perception, but also how magic has the ability to, because the beast was chasing America. So America was a representation of the star system. So she was a representation. The closest thing we have to the star system is our inner universe. So when we meditate, we pray, when we go to sleep and enter the multiverse, that's when we are actually tapped into the star system, right? Because if we're talking multiverse, we're talking the universe. In fact, I had got it download, and we could talk about this in depth, that there is actually no multiverse, that this is still the multiverse is the one universe, right, that we have here. But there are multiple galaxies in the universe. According to science, there's about 1 billion, right? That's just an estimate. They obviously don't really know. So could Rob Blackstorm and Micheal Bell, as you said, in another galaxy, I could be a poet, right? I could be a rich person. I could be swimming like a fish in the sea world, right? Mm-hmm. All those different panels that when he first touched America and hit and traveled the star system, right? Because America was the feminine representation, or that dark matter, dark energy representation of going into the cosmos and the ability to go into the cosmos. But it takes you going into your star system within in order to travel and traverse the cosmos. And I like how you talked about the tree of life, because the tree of life, even though I understand the Kabbalah, I come from the Kemetic tree of life around Nefer Medu. So it's the same, pretty much the same principle.
Same concept.
The same concept, just using Kemetic deities, as you know. And it reminded me of Orset type of thing, where Orset or Yemaya, which will be in Yoruba, or Yesod, which will be on the Kabbalah, tapping into that feminine nature of imagination, right? Which is what the dream world is. It's heightened imagination. Tap into that feminine energy of the womb, which is creation through imagination, and creation also through the combination of activation, which is her basically dealing with her trauma and her trauma activating, which is how we level up in life. We have to go through ups and downs, right, in order to level up, in order to become what we are. And what we shall be. And the more that we fight off different enemies, like I say that life is like a video game. You first start off on the first level and you're battling certain people, right? And then you continue when you beat the boss of that level, and the boss could be baby mama, baby daddy, boyfriend, girlfriend. A lot of times our relationships reflect our highest points of our highest battles within, because relationships are reflections of ourselves. Just like the moon is a reflection of the sun. So I thought that was interesting as well.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead. You go.
Now, I was just going to say, you hit some good points, because number one, about the nature of the dream, there is only one reality, but it's multifaceted like a prism. So depending on which direction the light hits it, it's going to be one of those colors. And in the color spectrum, we got the 7 basic colors, but we know there's a myriad of other colors. Anybody that goes into meditation understands that there's a whole spectrum of colors that we never even experience in our waking lives. But one thing I noticed that rang true for me was I have been in meditation and literally just like slid into another life and just... Yes. And just like observed and interacted. I mean, even to where I've been at this point where the people around me have been like, man, what's up? You're not acting like yourself today. So that for me really definitely rang true. What I wanted to point out, and you brought it back to my mind, was if you think about it, we have Doctor Strange, we have the Scarlet Witch, and then we have America. Yes. So basically we have the father, the mother, and the child principle being represented. You know what I'm saying? So yes. I think that that's very important, because we see that from America's trauma to Scarlet Witch's trauma to Doctor Strange's trauma, it comes down, especially on this path that we're walking, it's going to come down to, number one, how do you heal that wounded child? In the case of the wounded child with Doctor Strange, America had trust issues. If we're going to equate Doctor Strange to the father principle, man, you just tried to kill me. You know what I'm saying? So how do we come to these? How do we come to grips with these traumas and then make them work for us in the long run? And for me, that's the main thing I'm about. I look at, you can look around life and you see all this horrible stuff. Everybody has a story to tell. And it turns into a one-upmanship.
Rich or poor. People think rich people don't have problems and issues for some apparent reason. They think because they have everything financially and materially that they have the world. But it was interesting too, because one of the things that they kept saying, reiterating to Strange, was Are you happy? Are you happy? And one of the things he said towards the end of the film was, he was like, I thought saving the world was going to make me happy, you know? So he basically, it was still kind of like that Christ theme of, you know, where they say Satan, Christ was on a mountain and they said, you know, Satan, I'm going to give you everything in the world. You know what I'm saying? If you simply follow me. Now, we don't, you know, Satan is not Satan. There's no such thing as Satan in ancient language, or, you know, the devil in ancient language. That's just a concept that was created by Judeo-Christians and Council of Knights and all that. But as far as you being in your lower vibration, you being caught up in the cycles of the world, and you being caught up, like you said, in trauma, I thought it was also a great extension of WandaVision, and still continuing that kind of a Lilith type of theme, where WandaVision was basically about her being immersed in pop culture, right? Her falling victim to pop culture and living through pop culture as a way to escape pain, which we see is a common theme today, right? As soon as something becomes popular, as soon as something is propagated via media, right, people follow like sheep. You see that with the hokey pokey, right? We see that with trends, right? We see that with just even the ways people speak and catch on to slang and things like that. So we have to kind of be discerning on what we use as, or things that we're using in a form of escape. And the only real way to escape is to go within and learn thyself. You cannot obtain joy through external means. The joy has to be cultivated within, and it has to be found within self. And I think as Wanda will continue her journey through the multiverse, so to speak, that's going to become a theme that will coalesce towards the end of her journey in the Marvel Universe.
I think too, another important fact, and we kind of touched on a little bit, is how when I was talking about how Freemasonry, Illuminati, all these things are like buzzwords for the evils of this world. So a lot of people feel like, number one, I'm a prisoner trapped in my body. I didn't ask to be here. Kids being kidnapped. See, what you have to understand is that there is a grand tapestry being this. The symbology of the multiverse is similar to, like, my granny used to make these quilts. My granny was super old, so she made these generational quilts that she would add to, and they were beautiful. But I was just speaking to someone the other day. If you were to put that same beautiful quilt under a magnifying glass and just examine one thread, the closer you got into it, the more monstrous it would look. Right. So a lot of times, I mean, just think about, like, if you magnify the ant or a T blood cell, they look like alien creatures. They don't look like something that's good or that you want in your body. But the point I want to make is, a lot of the things that we have to deal with as occultists is, number one, you did choose to be here. Yes. You did choose a physical body as a vehicle of expression and experience. So another huge part of it, going within is necessary. But what you also have to do is, man, appreciate your body.
Yeah.
Don't focus on the ills of this world. If you're a vegan, be the best vegan ever. If you're gonna eat some pork, man, I'm not gonna tell you that's gonna lock down your chakras and you want to sin. Because I do ascribe to the fact that this is like a video game. This reality isn't real in that sense. But also, I just want to say, just real briefly, we have to find ways to live in the moment and to appreciate our bodies, because we're talking about trauma. Panic back in the days, man, Panic had the best thing for it. I always repeat it. It's trauma, repetition, symbols. Mm-hmm. Those are the only ways to reprogram the subconscious mind. Subconscious mind by default programs the conscious mind. So are you going to let trauma be what programs you and makes you turn left or right? Repetition is almost as bad as trauma. I mean, in terms of experience, if you bump your head ahead enough, you'll learn eventually, maybe duck when I turn left. So you really want to use symbols. You want these things that you've assigned meaning to, so that way you can find your way in the dark. But I just want to say that a lot of people look at this physical reality as being something evil. And if you really think about it, from the point of creation of matter, let's say the all, whatever we want to call this universal consciousness, the descent into physicality doesn't make any of this any less holy.
Right.
It all came from the same source. And actually, we here to gain experience and master this reality. But what you had said too about Wanda and how she in the world she created in WandaVision, it was all to avoid those trauma posts. She wanted to avoid it, so she wanted to be in the world as well as of the world. You know what I'm saying? So, but for her, it was a retreat to the past. The past is usually going to be one of two things. It's going to be either pleasure or pain. So she retreated to the past in terms of television and things like that, and tried to live out those TV scenes that she thought was real. And it manifested in this movie, because the bottom line, if you think about it, the water to wine, that was symbolic of alchemical transformation. You can say lead to gold, but you can also do the opposite direction. Water, which could be something spiritual, turn it into blood, which is physical. So it kind of was symbolic of like a de-evolution of coming into the flesh. Because if you think about it, Strange, he lied when he said he was happy. Man, he wanted his girl.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm not happy.
Right.
Hey, think about it. Hey, I was saying to myself, no way I could be at somebody I cared about wedding like that.
And his past,
you know?
That's real quick. I want you to keep building, but his past showed up in the beginning of the movie when he was at the wedding. That person that was talking to him, the guy that was talking to him, was also a doctor in Doctor Strange 1, and that was the doctor that was jealous of Doctor Strange.
Yep.
So I thought it was interesting that his trauma also showed up at that point. Go ahead.
That was the theme of the whole movie.
Yes.
Like I said, it caught my attention early on in that he was being reminded of the decisions that he made. And the thing about it is, like I say this, we all say, well, not all, most of us refer to the time before we fully awaken as being like our dead state. You know, when I was dead, I used to go to church. When I was dead, I ate pork. When I was dead, I did X, Y, Z. Now, I have a different take on that. And this is what I think Dr. Strange had to come to grips with. Man, I got faith in a lot of decisions I made when I was supposedly dead. I have faith in a lot of them because I still believe in the fact that my subconscious mind is aware of what I'm here to do. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of these decisions that we make, like Dr. Strange, like you mentioned earlier, he thought that saving the world would make him happy. But in the process of saving the world, he had to break eggs to make that omelet, you know? And so just to keep tying it in, because I like, what I like to do is when I decode and I look for stuff, I look for applicable things. I want it to be something that I don't want to just drop no science. I want you to, I would like myself first and others, if you relate, to be able to have tools that you can use and apply in your life. And so while we're talking Dr. Strange, and I think we both kind of agree that it was all about how you deal with trauma. And in the 3-act, all movies follow those 3 acts, right? Problem, reaction, solution. So the problem being presented was we had 3 characters who all 3 had trauma. America, she had these gifts and abilities that she honestly didn't want, or that didn't fully
know how to access.
Didn't know how to fully, and that could be a curse in and of itself, to be honest. You know,
it reminded me of also shit. When I related to America on that, because it's like I was telling somebody, I was talking to my homie Tab, and I was like, yo, Tab, I was running from being this. I was running from teaching. I was running from my spiritual self. I was running from this calling for years. Like I did everything in street life, you know what I'm saying, including getting locked up, you know what I'm saying? Same here. Run from just doing this or really being immersed in the work, you know, making the sacrifices needed to become better as well. And it was only through trauma, and then understanding the trauma and how to basically, like you said, transmute it alchemically, you know, and utilize it in that form. But go ahead, I'm sorry. No, that's because it definitely reminded me of, and there's a lot of people that are just like that, you know, they don't want to express themselves on social media. They don't want to create a YouTube channel. They don't want to create the next new invention. They don't want to, you know, step out of the quote unquote character of the masses. And 9 times out of 10, it's due to childhood trauma. America lost her parents, you know? So how many of us lose our parents through them being so-called spaced out, right? Through their space or their focus or their star alignment being, you know, for my parents, most of them, they were focused on getting money, being immigrants, you know what I'm saying? So in the process of, my father, especially trying to get money, just to bring it personal, so it's relatable, with him trying to get money, I lost that connection of growing and learning what being a man was. So I had to, and my calling was at that time as a youth, going through the hero's journey of finding manhood in the streets, and through rappers and street life and stuff like that, right? So it kind of, so when I saw that, I was like, yo, so even you bringing it up, it kind of sparked that in my mind, how, you have a calling and you'll go through some things in order to learn who you are. The key is to have a star point or a focus to where you know that this is what you're really trying to do. And if you are calling for it, the portal will open up for you to heal. The portals will open up for you to find tools for your healing. The portals will open up with people that will come to you to help you heal. But you have to have that start point. You have to have that focus. You have to have that light to where you're saying, okay, this is where I'm going, and continue to feed that light, continue to bring energy and magnetism to that light.
And if you think about it, to the point I just made and you just made, when I was saying that, man, I got faith in a lot of decisions I made when I was quote unquote dead. Now think about, apply that to America. She thought she didn't have control over her powers, but we discovered later on, she always went to exactly she needed to be. And that's how it is with us when we find ourselves kind of like in these days, and we kind of not sure what to do, where to go, how should we proceed? But believe it or not, you're already working towards that eventual goal. Now, for some people, might take you a few lifetimes to consciously be aware that you're building this temple and you're working towards that goal, but it's still there. It's still there. But I just want, okay, so let's get back to the movie. So I think that we saw later, I think a big event, which it came out to play out in the second half. I think a big part was that Dr. Strange buried one of his former selves. And he made the statement that, I've buried worse, right? And we all have. So I think that was kind of like one of those little buzz where you kind of wonder, like, for me, it was like, at first I was thinking, what worse did you bury? But I had to think about it. We all have buried worse. Whether you bury it physically or mentally in your subconscious mind. So I thought that was a dope point. And
how he had to go back into that, and Mike, I don't know if you had something else to say. Go ahead. I want to talk about, before I explain how I see, I want to talk about a key point in the movie. Again, this is a little bit of a spoil. Again, there's spoilers in this, unfortunately. I'm sorry. It's been out for a week. You should have seen it at least once by now. If not, it's on bootleg. Try to find it on the site, right? But I want to talk about the shadow battle, the ultimate shadow battle with Strange versus himself after he went into the underworld and tried to get the book of Vishanti. And then once that didn't work out, but it's interesting. I don't know if you saw that, but the book of Vishanti, one of the pages that was left that flew up was a star, right? I thought it was interesting. They had that little star representing American Chavez. Also, American Chavez being the West, right? Orientation through freemasonry, and also how the Hispanic population is also going to is rising, right? They say by 2053, the Hispanic population will take over America. Also with the whole don't kill your children theme, right? The abortion, Roe versus Wade is right on the table, right? So they're talking about that as well, and how trying to, well, I won't get into that, but I want to talk about specifically the theme of music and how they were battling through music. Talk to me about what you saw in that and what kind of, what affected mysticism or masonry that relates to us here and now.
For me, that whole battle was one of vibration. That's one of the principles of the Kabbalion. It's all about vibration, right? And so if you notice in that battle, anybody that saw it, 616 Dr. Strange, I should say, he was on a higher vibration. When the dark Dr. Strange, he was always on a lower vibration. Now I tell you, there's in terms of Masonically speaking, there is an opera. It's called it's Mozart's Magical Flute, and it is a Masonic opera. It's if you could Google it and cheat, or you can listen to it, and it is designed to raise consciousness, right? And so that's what kind of
what's
came
that? Mozart's Magical Flute?
Mozart's Magical Flute. Right. And it's essentially, even though it's in operatic form, or not operatic, Mozart, what is that? Orchestra, or it's classical music, right? But it describes through music the initiatic journey, or you could say, in terms of Freemasonry, it takes you through the 3 degrees of initiation, right? And so when I saw that, just down to the other Doctor Strange, we just talked about him burying one of his former selves, right? So here it is, you get to confront all these different aspects of yourself. And the main reason why the Dark Doctor Strange was destined to lose, because he was still operating off of trauma. Because the things we get in life, the things that most people call magic, it really only responds to it responds to willpower and desire, right? Now you can desire something for all the wrong reasons and still get it, because desire and willpower, those things are just as magical as childbirth. Nobody can really explain those things, desire and willpower. How do I exercise? Well, I want something. Is want the same as desire? And so with the Dark Doctor Strange, his whole motivation was he wanted what he had lost, and he wanted it by any means necessary. And I think that he was an example. If you think about it, it just hit me. We were presented with 3 first eyes throughout the whole movie. The first eye in the beginning, that was a great breakdown you had too. I didn't think about it. That one, we left that one to the streets, right?
Mm-hmm. That's for the streets. Yeah.
Now I just mentioned the 3 levels of initiation. I'm referring that to Masonic, right? So with this first eye would be the first level. Now the first level of initiation always refers to the physical, right? That first eye. Mm-hmm. Second eye we saw, it's going to be a little higher than the physical, but it's not going to be at the point of first eye contact or pineal action. So the next eye, the next third eye we saw, or first eye we saw, would have been the Dark Strange. And I think that was applicable. I think that was applicable in terms of the struggle, because I think we all kind of find ourselves at that little cross in the road, right? And in terms of how we're going to view things and how we're going to utilize, because at this point, you've developed the will, and you know how to utilize your desire. So what are you going to use it for? You know, and I think that the Dark Doctor Strange, what kind of made him destined to fail, at least in this allegory, was his motives. You know, because we're talking about vibration, the principle of vibration. Now, the other Doctor Strange, he could have matched his energy, right? He could have went low, but he kept the higher vibration. So for me, and like I said, I watched it through a Masonic lens. So I said to myself, actually, that was part of the reason why I wanted to watch it again, or at least Google it. I wanted to find out what was those musical notes. I'm willing to bet you it was Mozart's Mason. I'm willing to bet you it was the Magical Flute.
I was telling Tab the same thing. I wanted to see that, and I caught the scene again when I rewatched it, but I was I was like drifting. So I was like in and out of consciousness, because I saw it before and I went to get it late at night and saw it. So I was kind of tired when I rewatched it, but I wanted to catch the note, because I was like, man, what note was that they were playing? Because that note is a key. That's a key piece on the harp. And I was talking to people on my channel. I was talking about Psalm Sunday. When Psalm Sunday came, Palm Sunday, right? Mm-hmm. I call it Psalm Sunday or Palm Sunday. I had the Psalms, the book by Anna Riva. The book of Psalms was about chanting the Psalms, which are basically verses or spells, right? The Psalms are basically spells, right? Written out spells, if you understand what the Bible is. And there's different portions for different things. Mm-hmm. But there's basically spells, and they were meant, even if you read the Psalms, it'll tell you, or read the book by Anna Riva, the book of the Psalms, and it tells you that string music, right, That's why I thought it was so interesting that they were using the harp, and the harp was the main theme to basically defeat the evil doctor, the so-called evil Doctor Strange, because that string music is also a healing modality, right? The guitar, the harp, these different things. And it brought me back to one of my favorites. I always talk about my auntie, my spiritual auntie, Alice Coltrane, and how her music, when I listen to it, is basically, she does a lot of string music where she's using a lot of harp. And it always raises my vibration. Always. I always feel better once I listen to that music. So just how we have these different tools, 40 hertz, the gamma wave, the theta wave, the alpha wave that we could tap into just by going into YouTube to raise our frequency and raise our vibration and things. These are things that we want to do anyway, based on just the environmental factors. And we have a ton of new towers that were implemented in 2020 on the top of our buildings and in society that's pushing out waves, different frequencies of waves right now, right? We're not going to say what exactly it is, but we should be able to put two and two together. But I thought, like you said, you have to hop into, like, he had to reuse the dead self he had to master, right? Christine said, yo, she held his hand. He started diving deep and she was like, yo, you're the source of supreme, my nigga. Like, hey, you was like, what are you like? Yeah, you're not gonna be drowned in this universe. You're not gonna fall victim to you. Basically, she was like, how you gonna fall victim? This is you. Like, you are the dark hole. You're the source of the supreme. So use your alchemy. And then he started using those mudras, right, to create those different. Now they didn't show the Solomon seals, but I always say, whenever Dr. Strange is doing his thing with those mudras, Solomon seals pop up. They always look like seals to me, like like Solomon seals. Go ahead. And
that was implied.
Masonry with the sacred geometry. Go ahead.
No, that the seal of Solomon was implied. I'm gonna tell you this. When she said, you are the sorcerer supreme, master of the mystic arts, they're just spirits, use them. I said, oh, right. they stole it out of it.
They was cooking.
Hey, so, and I thought that was powerful in the essence of course, those dark spirits were inky black. For me, that was synonymous with melanin, right?
Yes, and the ancestors, yes.
And the ancestors.
Yes.
And so initially they was on Doc Strange game. I know we didn't progress to the second half, but initially they was on this game like, oh, you doing too much. You came somewhere you don't belong. But essentially he hadn't paid due reverence prior to. And so I think that to be honest, I was thinking, when I saw that scene, I was thinking 72 demons. I was thinking Seal of Solomon. And like I said, I only saw it one time, but I was doing my best trying to see if I could count a certain number and multiply to see if it come up to 72. I kept saying, them gotta be the 72. And then of course, we saw the Shiva moment, right?
Yes.
We definitely saw the Shiva moment when he finally coalesced and brought it in together. But we know that's dancing Shiva. That's Shiva that has awakened from the dream, right? And so I do think, I wanted to say this real quick. When he had to go back and basically revive his dead self, I know for a fact I've lived several lifetimes during this lifetime.
Right.
A lot of people who know me now, family and friends who know me very well, they've watched me progress through these lifetimes. A lot of people who know me at this juncture would be surprised to know that there was a Mike Bell that was about that street life.
Right. Same here. People never believe that I went through what I went through. No. 17, 18, 19. Knowing me now, they never do.
I was raised indoctrinated as a Jehovah's Witness.
Me too, bro.
Right?
That's wild. I didn't know that.
And then, you know what? I've learned at this age that every now and then I got to activate one of them old dead bodies.
Yeah.
And I activate them. Because they have become tools. Growing up a Jehovah's Witness, I know how to research. I know how to study. Yes. This was ingrained in me at a young age. You're going to set aside 2-3 hours a day. And
for that watchtower, for that Bible study.
And listen, let me say this to you. My mother, I learned how to read by the time I was 3.
Same here. I was reading about 4. Yeah,
my mother We sat down every night. It was supposed to be only 15 minutes, but it ended up being an hour or longer every night. We read the Bible cover to cover so many times during my lifetime, but this was ingrained in me. You're going to sit down, you're going to study. Now, Michael, what does that mean to you? Okay, won't you read that verse again, Michael, and tell me again what you think it means to you? So that former self is a tool that every now and then I dig it on up. And even with Dr. Strange, him bringing it up, you notice, even though it was his former self, he still couldn't quite use them fingers. You know what I'm saying? So it's to say that some of these things and traumas from the past, they exist in almost every life we've lived, and it's there for a reason, to make sure we don't develop crutches, you know, because either one of us could still be about that street life. We could either be dead, we could be walking the yard telling stories. Man, I'm telling you, man, back in '89, man, I had it on lock. You know what I'm saying? Right. Anybody wanted to get a quarter key, they had to come through. We could still be, right. We could be stuck, but instead we've progressed. And again, everything I've experienced in this life, like I said, that's why I have faith in everything I went through. That's why I know I chose my mother as well as my father for what they would bring to the table for me, you know? Mm-hmm. And so it was something about Doc Strange I wanted to go back and bring up. I had to come back to me.
Let's go back into, well, I don't know if you remembered it. I feel like I cut your access to that form of consciousness. So I don't know if you remember it.
Go ahead.
Okay, so what I wanted to go back to, or what I thought is a key point, you may have wanted to go back to, was when Wanda was in Carmitage, right? You know, She made her grand entrance, and she was like, you know, I've given you guys mercy. You know, I've been reasonable long enough. And then she just started catching bodies, which I thought was like an epic scene. But how when she got into the actual temple, and Dr. Strange tried to trap her, you know, in the mirror world, right? Because that's, you know, the mirror world has been a constant. And even in Spider-Man, the last Spider-Man, they had the mirror world again. So it's always, when they deal with mysticism, they always deal with putting you in this mirror world where it's reflections of yourself, but you can't really see yourself, right? And I thought that was ill in relations to how everything is really a reflection of yourself. The people that you are dating, the people, your children, the people that you socialize with, everything in nature, everything in the world is based on your perception. According to quantum physics and the observer effect, what's behind me is not even real until I actually observe it. Mm-hmm. It's just a wave of potential. When I turn around and look back, then that is the actual particle or the actual reality. So, but her way of going through that quantum physics is to become a wave again, to get through the particle. She had to go through, she saw that the mirror world was really water, right? It was just a watery reflection. And the water is always synonymous with spirit, right? Mm-hmm. Because we're made of 70% water, you know, H2O, the oxygen and all that, the hydrogen element being one of the first elements in creation, right? But we also know that we all drink water, right? Whether we're drinking juice, soda, all these things are backed by water. So we're all essentially sharing the same water, all of us, like every person in humanity. So I thought it was interesting, and I want that where she had to go through the trap, and she basically saw that it was water, and she kind of made herself become, as Bruce Lee would say, be like water, my friend. You know, water fits into the cup, you know, water will fit into a square. And so, you know, being like water, being able to adapt to different things that come at you, you know, I thought it was very interesting that was the way she exchanged Strange's magic trap, so to speak.
Yeah. I think also it comes with the realization that like it brings to mind one of the meditation techniques that C. Freeman L. had, where he would have you chant, God and I are one. So that reflection, those multiple surfaces, no matter how fractured they might appear, you can dissolve it all by realizing that it comes down to one point, which is me. And I think that's how she was able to access it, because again, her desire and willpower was on 1,000. You know what I'm saying? It didn't matter. She had a brief moment of indecision, and then she went to work. And if you think about it, she wasn't even weaving hand signs or using magic. It was all instinct. She knew what she wanted and she went after it. You had brought up earlier about the connection to Lilith, you know, in terms of the Dark Mother. And
going on that.
I think that I saw the connections and I kind of sort of was like, man, I hope don't nobody watch this and get the wrong decodes. Close that door, buddy. And I didn't want it to be seen as like some sort of corruption of the divine feminine. You know what I'm saying? I didn't want nobody to think that somehow the divine feminine is out of control, because the thing about Lilith and her children is that it's sacred.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? It's sacred. And I just think that what most people's understanding, especially when you take these metaphysical and occult concepts and you bring them down and they get denser and we equate it to a physical level. Because if you think about it, this whole out of control aspect of Wanda, it actually coincides with Kevin Samuels dipping on us, right? And Kevin Samuel was the main one that was he was on the aspects of the divine feminine that he didn't like. He treated it like a cockroach and he killed it. He stepped on it. So for me, that was heavy on my mind. Because I was thinking to myself, it's going to be somebody that's going to see this and going to say, man, in the name of Kevin Samuels, you see?
See how bad women are, right.
Exactly. And so I did see it. Now that we're talking, I wish I had did a little more just to bring more to the table. But that's what came to my mind while I was watching it, was the passing of Kevin Samuels. Because for me, I didn't go see it the first day it came out. Saw like maybe the third day after it came out. And the day I went to see it, the hot topic on social media was either people was doing the touchdown dance, that Kevin Samuels was dead, or it was people, you know, it was like polar opposites. And anybody walk in the middle, you were like, it was like walking through a gunfight.
Yes.
Either side would have shot you. If you was a dude and you was like, well, I really didn't agree with everything he said, pow, so somebody gonna shoot you. If you know, so I thought that was actually like, I thought it was actually appropriate, considering that brother had just exited the flesh. You know what I'm saying? But I just, on a very mundane level, I could see how it would, because if you think about it, buddy, come back and close my door, yo. It's all good. You're welcome to come back if you want to, okay? Hey, that's my son. Usually he hang out for any lecture I'm doing, any podcast interview, he hang out. But I guess he's not feeling Dr. Strange, man. But if you notice, she, in my opinion, she fully came back to her little aspect, even though this was another universe's version. But she realized that she wasn't doing nothing but traumatizing her own kids, you know? And it was that moment, even though it wasn't right there, but it was that moment where she actually started to come to her senses. But it was a point where she was just kind of, you know,
these were kids she created in WandaVision as a way to cope with her trauma.
Exactly.
These weren't even her kids, for real. These were kids she created, but even though she created it in her subconscious as a way to cope with trauma, it still manifested on, I thought that was deep, how it still manifested on another plane of existence.
Let me say this. Let's take it a step further. I would go so far as to say, not that it manifested in somewhere else. It was in her mind because it already existed somewhere else. Let's take it back to, I believe it's Endgame. Yeah, Endgame, Marvel Endgame. Remember Tony Stark was walking with Pepper and he said, I had a dream and we had a child and we named him after your crazy uncle, Morgan. Well, as time progressed, he did have a child and they named her Morgan. But the things we pull down, especially from meditation, from dream work, all these things we pull down, they already exist. If not right now, if not at some other point, then in the past it did. So like, I'll give you one good example about it. I was explaining to one of my nieces a while ago. I was explaining to her because she was, her and her baby daddy, and would get into it and have these fights. And so, but she had mentioned to me before that she had some neighbors that would argue like a motherfucker, and they could hear them going at it. So I used to ask her, you really got to stop and think, are these emotions even mine? Because they come and they go. They don't exist within you. They come like a thought. We were talking about the observer effect, quantum entanglement, which is what they call spooky action at a distance, right? Mm-hmm. It's where two particles separated by great length, at any moment, they both kind of like, and it ties into the principles of vibration that we're talking about. So a lot of times we tune in to a vibration, man, it's not even ours. And if you don't have the self-awareness to step out of it, you just step right into it and you live it. Just like anger, all these emotions, even happiness. Sometimes you can get happy out of nowhere. And you just, man, what's going on, man? I just feel great. You know, I just and part of our work is to examine these emotions and feelings, because to be honest, we should be in control of them at all times. And to me, that equates, like for myself, with chakra work. I'm big on chakra work, but I'll tell you how I always know when I need to do some chakra work. I have a moment where I step outside of myself and I look at myself and be like, really, nigga? When the last time you did some chakra work? And I say, ew, it's been a minute. Get back on your work, dog. And I step back into myself. And so we all kind of go along with the flow, but there will always be points where we can step outside of ourselves and be honest. We should be honest and know, I got to work on this better. I got to do better. But I just think that, like you said, she pulled those kids that she thought out of her imagination. But this whole movie, Doc Strange, showed that everything you dream about is existing at some other point in time. Because if you think about it, when Doc Strange in America, when they tumbled through all them worlds, they went through like 7 or 9 worlds. I forget how many. They went through a 1930s world. They went through a dinosaur realm. They went through paint. They went through cartoons. They went through some futuristic robotic world. They went through all these different worlds. This is what we tap into through meditation.
Yes.
So one of the things that I learned, especially when I really got serious about the work, was like dream recall, and to some point, meditation, and like even we say astral work. You have these experiences, but when you come to, what did you bring back? Sometimes, especially with dreams. Sometimes
wait, before you get into that, because you know dream walking. So I just want to segue.
Yeah.
Keep your thought, but dream, because I know the time's almost ended. I don't want to keep you. I know you got another thing. I would definitely don't want to leave this without talking about dream walking and astral travel, astral projection. Go ahead.
I'm gonna tie it
that was the main theme of Doctor Strange and Wanda. They had to go into meditation. They had to go into silence. They had to go into stillness, and they had a whole bunch of candles around them, right? That flaming aspect, in order to astral travel, in order to project their consciousness into someone else. Real quick, we did an experiment. Me and Tab did an experiment. And I was like, yo, I'm gonna go into meditation. I want you to find me, and you go into meditation. I didn't tell Tab was I was gonna wait. I waited about 10 minutes. And I let Tab go into meditation first. But I'm like, I'm going into meditation now, right? I ain't tell Tab I was gonna wait. I felt Tab in meditation, feeling and searching for me. I literally, to the point where I stopped. I was like, oh shit. Because I started doing something else. And I was like, oh shit, like let me go into meditation myself, because I felt that energy. I felt Tab's energy inside my body. So the veil right now is very, very thin for that type of work as well. But go ahead.
No, I agree with you 100. Now, see, I did similar experiments myself. I just didn't have anybody in close proximity to me. So I know what you're saying. I want to point out what you said about the candles, because we're going to make this relatable in terms of personal work. Now, the thing about candles and meditation is, if you stare at a flickering candle prior to meditation, it's going to activate your hippocampus. The hippocampus is where we store memory and emotion. The hippocampus also is where we store ancestral memory. So we have past, present, and future. So you can actually stare at the flickering of a candle. For some, it takes longer. For others, it's just very little. But generally, I would say to anybody who wants to kind of incorporate what we're talking about, you can stare at a candle until you feel like you want to blink. You don't want to blink. You want to stare at it long enough till when you close your eyes, you can still see that flame burning behind your eyes. And what you'll find is, now I say this too, just to tie it in the movies while we're talking, I'll get back on track. Whenever I think of the hippocampus, I think of Princess Leia and her mom, Padme, right? Those buns she had were synonymous with the horns of Amun. It's synonymous with the hippocampus. And if you look at those,
or the hippocampi, yeah,
exactly. So if you examine those characters, they were emotional. They were about ancestors and ancestral memory, things like that. But just to get back on the topic of dream walking, remember earlier I said the first thing that came to my mind when they talked about when you go in the dream, you actually go into another aspect of yourself was I've definitely had meditations and dreams where I came to in another body. I mean, literally I've been, I tell you one of the dopest ones I can recall. About 2017, I was working on past life regression, heavy. That's all I was on. I'm talking about I would meditate 2-3 times a day. And it was all about past life regression. Well, and the only thing I can say is the closest I can equate, because I haven't seen nothing like it, I had to have been like in Lemuria somewhere. It was total darkness. We were either in a cave or inside a pyramid or some kind of structure with no light was coming in. But it was a huge space because there were these 3 obelisks. The obelisks were, they were like, I don't want to say ivory, but it was like had a shimmering color to it, the whiteness. But the thing about the obelisk, and they had these like sigils inscribed on them in gold, and they were encased in an oblong, like an oblong box with these sigils. It was the 3 obelisks. We were chanting and going through some kind of ritual. So when I slid into this body, and at this point I kind of got used to sliding in, and I would tell myself to be cool for a little bit.
Talk to him.
Be cool. Don't instantly just, because you want to look around and take everything in. So I would tell myself, once you get in, be easy, look around, kind of see what's going on and kind of ease into it. So in this one, I had on the robe. I'm in a line. It's a line of us. We chanting. These obelisks, when we started chanting, the obelisks raised out of their base. Both ends were pointed. They raised out of the base. The little sigils or writing on them kind of liquefied. And so that threw me off. I was just like, I never forget I had a hood up, but I looked up like, this is fucking dope. What the fuck is that? I'm looking, and the person next to me elbowed me like, man, we about this work right now. What is you doing? Get back on your square, man, finish chanting. So, but I was just kind of like, so, and I equated it to when the dark Dr. Strange said, you ever had that dream where you was falling? That was me. So the idea and the concept of dream walking, I think that what most don't understand is that we all share the dream. It's Freud called it the collective unconscious. In Kabbalah, it's called the etheric plane. You got all these names for it, right? The etheric and astral planes, those two sit right on top of the physical form. So
yes, the Cometians, Egyptian, they call it a mentor or the land of mentor.
The halls of a mentor. Thank you. Mm-hmm. The halls of a mentor. These are so they're physical places, but they're not physical in the sense of tangible, but these locations exist. We all go there. But the reason why we don't always link up is because there's no telling where we are or when we are. And like the experiment that you and your man Tab conducted, for me, I would try to say, we're going to meet here. I would try different for what you did. Now I think about it, maybe that's what I should have done was let's just find each other. Because
that's actually what we tried. We tried to just find each other. Now I'm gonna be completely honest, it didn't work. We didn't find each other in the astral realm. We only did it once though. They're thousands of miles away, right? Mm-hmm. So we didn't find each other, but I felt Tab's energy. Like I felt physically that there was a search within me. I felt like the scanning, I felt like the looking, I felt like the body scanning, physically, tangibly felt it, So I thought it was interesting how the whole spirit walking, even in the dream world, like you were saying, you could be part of something else. I've definitely meditated even daydream, which is a form of meditation,
where
we've all daydreamed and been someplace else, right? We've all been at work or doing some type of mundane job or something that's very repetitious and rote, and we've gone someplace else, right? People smoke weed, right? You go into what they call another zone or whatever, you drift off. So there's times when we do this just in our so-called conscious life, right? Our so-called waking life. But this is the dream. Like, even though that is so-called the dream world, right? The subconscious is always conscious, right? We use the conscious and subconscious as a differentiation tool so people can understand the concept. But the subconscious is always conscious. The subconscious is always online. It doesn't turn off. Even when you're sleeping, you're still venturing the subconscious. You're just closer to that modality or closer to that that idea, so to speak, or that concept of the subconscious or that flow state of the subconscious than you are in your waking state where you're not conscious of that flow state and you're dealing with the external world. But we always go, through different polarities of being in the subconscious world and the so-called conscious world, right? But the goal of magic, in my eyes, is to make the subconscious conscious at all times. Make the automatic and autonomic parts that control your breathing, that control your digestions, that control your sleeping and your circadian rhythms, and bring those to consciousness. And the best way to do that is by overcoming the adversities of life, right? Overcoming these childhood traumas and using the things that, like you said, the dead Dr. Stranges, right? Using the parts of ourselves that we've learned. Like my Jehovah's Witness teaching, like yours, was invaluable. You know what I'm saying? Like, that is the foundation. I can never get away from that. Even me becoming a member of the Nation Gods and Earths back in the days, like, that's invaluable, right? Even though I don't subscribe to any of those philosophies, still having that knowledge has helped me, even through the struggles of me dealing with my parents and me dealing with that, not believing in the philosophy totally and those different type of things, and coming out of it and telling them I don't believe in it and going through those things, right? Still got me to the place where I am today. So we have to, like you said, the vibration of gratitude leads to the vibration of joy. You can't always be happy. You can't always be comfortable. You can't always be, you can't always feel like, oh, life is amazing, right? But you can always conjure joy. You could always find a way to conjure joy in the midst of someone passing, in the midst of you losing everything, in the midst of the greatest of struggles. You could always conjure joy. And joy starts, to me, with gratitude. Once you have gratitude, then joy becomes much easier to manifest. And again, going back to the theme of the movie, dealing with childhood trauma and dealing with relationship trauma and dealing with just the pain of loss and things like that, one of the main themes was that they kept repeating throughout the movie from the beginning to the end was, are you happy? And another theme I thought that I caught the second time was they, in the beginning, like Wong was the Sorcerer Supreme, right? He was actually the Sorcerer Supreme. And he was like, you're supposed to bow to the Sorcerer Supreme. We have to be devoted to this way of life, and we have to honor the path and honor our experiences and honor where we are at this present moment, right? Can't just take it for granted because we've learned these things and we have these ideas and concepts that, oh, we finally hit we've hit the end game and we've hit the end goal and that's it. We're just Sorcerer Supremes. No, there's always more levels to master. And towards the end, he was like, yo, Dr. Strange finally hit that bow to Wong, like, yo, you are the Sorcerer Supreme. I'm gonna honor that. You know what I'm saying? Even though he had already went through all these changes and got friggin' wings made, melanated wings of demons on his back, and he mastered the whole dark world, the dark inner world. He still had to come back and realize, yo, I'm gonna honor this path. I'm gonna honor where I am. I'm devoted to this path, and this is what got me to where I am now. And sometimes we beat ourselves up so much and we go through life, not having grace with ourselves, and not having just the fact that, yo, this experience, it was bad or whatever, it happened, but I'm here today. I'm here as a new day. You know what I'm saying? It's a new sun. It's a new light, and I have the means to change my life, and that is the blessing in itself. While we're here, it's not a prison planet. We're not on a prison. This is a school. This is a college. This is made for us to be able to go to the next level in reality. And this fleshly mammalian body that we're in is just made for us to be able to have emotional intelligence, manage that intelligence, right? And some of these other so-called tricks of the trade or mysticism, right? Or occultism is really just about diving into the deeper points of yourself.
Yeah.
Not necessarily the sacred geometry, not necessarily the Solomon seal, not necessarily the candle or the crystal, or not necessarily any of those things, right? Those are just tools that are going to, again, bring the subconscious to the conscious. So your spirit walking in real life, and you're able to connect with people and do that type of spirit walking without even going into the depths of meditation.
I want to say, I want to drop one more spoiler before we do wrap it up.
Yes, sir.
Did you notice that at the end, Wong asked him, now mind you, let me set a little precedence. Let me set the scene. Mind you, he had dealt with all of his trauma. He had came to grips, even though it wasn't his Christine, even though it wasn't his Christ figure, he had came to grips with dealing with that. He came to grips with his decision making and some of the calls he made in the past. Wong asked him, he even battled his own demons, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he activated that dark hold. So Wong asked him, how are you, man? You animated your dead self, you dream walked, you used the dark hold. I'm all right. Remember, fast forward, he stepped out the house, he felt some pain, he bent over, he came up, and that eye opened. And I thought that was synonymous of truly opening up that eye, because the Dark Strange had his eye open too. So it is. See, this thing too, I want to bring up.
No, Dark Strange wanted was love. He just wanted his Christ consciousness. He just wanted his Christine. He just wanted love. He wanted his heart to be open.
And the thing is, I mentioned chakra work earlier, and what a lot of people don't realize is that the first three chakras, a lot of people say root chakra is bad. You and your root chakra. He and his sacral. But the thing is, those first three chakras, even though they're related to physicality, they're so important, because if you don't deal with them, because you got to look at the chakras are just circles. They're just like lenses. And the higher up it goes, the more intense the energy is that develops, with that serpentine energy. But what most don't realize is that if you don't deal with your traumas properly in the first three, man, you can still open up your heart, you can still open up the throat, you can still go to the third and into the crown. But the thing is, you now looking out of a dirty window. You got a dirty lens, you scratching, you driving and trying to wipe the window at the same time because I can't see shit, but you there. You can, because the concept of like chakras and things like that is you don't force it open, you realize that it is open. And if something is a little out of whack, you don't take the whole chakra system offline. You do a little preventative maintenance. Okay, my sacral chakra is a little wobbly, man. I'm a little too far left or a little too far right. So you tighten it up a little bit and you keep it moving. So I think that in the instance of him finally achieving his third eye, because in the comics, Doc Strange did have a third eye, right? He did have the first eye. Yeah. But I think that it was important for this character not to have achieved that point until he had dealt with all of his traumas, because he was clearly not the dark or evil Doc Strange. He matter of fact, at the end, he fixed his timepiece, right? Before he was keeping it as a remembrance of shattered and broken and of shattered promises and forgotten love, whatever. And it brought to mind for me, I had a mentor when I was younger. I say a mentor, but he was diehard gangbanger, right? One of the hardest dudes you ever meet. But man, gave me one of the most profound sayings of my life, because he was an intelligent dude. And he always used to tell me, you too smart for your own good, youngster. And he told me, you gotta start wearing your intelligence like a watch. And so I'm thinking, what? He said, yeah, you only show up when it's time. Only show up when it's time. And so I watched that, and that's all an analogy for me. That sealed in the analogy of that watch. He carried.
I'm taking that. I'm gonna tell my daughter that. Shoot, I'm taking that. Yeah.
You did, and then also one more spoiler. because I do got a dip, but I gotta say this. If you think about it, that watch was just as important to the whole movie as anything else, because that was the only thing that allowed him to access where the Book of Vishanti was the watch, right? Now, had he still viewed that watch as something horrible, traumatic, whatever, he never would have realized that that was the key. You know what I'm saying? And so, yeah, for me, it was moments like that when I watched the movie that, like I said, it would take me in and out of decode mode to, man, I'm just in loving it, and I'm finding connections for myself, you know? And so I hate that we didn't get to, because you had dropped one on me that kind of blew me away about when you said Dr. Krishna and the Vishnu connection. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I ain't gonna lie.
Yeah.
I got at least 5-10 minutes. I would love for you to drop that on me. I ain't gonna lie.
Yeah, so the Shiva aspect of the movie to me was, again, it started with the motif of him turning water to wine and him doing that particular alchemy. I'm like, okay, this is a Christ story, right? There was a theme of Christ, him learning, where he learned about dream walking. Because remember, Dr. Strange was not a dream walker. Wanda was already dream walking because she already had access to the Darkhold. So he had to learn what dream walking was. And I thought it was interesting that Mordo, right, his mortal enemy, so to speak, and he was also melanated, right? He's the one who told him about dream walking, right? Mm-hmm. So the whole Shiva connection was about him learning, right? This is the part of the Bible they don't really talk about. He just kind of pops out. He's Jesus as a kid, you know, but if you look at like the Aquarian gospel, or if you study the aspect of Krishna in the Hindu philosophy, like Krishna was going through it. You know what I'm saying? Krishna was learning about himself. He had a bit of arrogance about himself, right? He was kind of a wild boy, so to speak, you know, and a wild young adult, right? These are the parts of the quote unquote apocrypha that is taken out of the Bible, right? And things that are in the Nag Hammadi, right? Where you can see these different aspects of Christ or Jesus turning into the Christ-like figure. So he had a fall in himself the same way there was the other Doctor Strange in the beginning of the movie who was making a decision about, you know, he was like, yo, I'm gonna kill America so that Wanda doesn't take her power, right? Which also goes back to the power of decisions, the power of our decisions making. Like it brought me to the idea where, you know, you hear a cop, right? And we'll talk about things that police officers do. And then they'll say, I'm just doing my job. You know what I'm saying? They'll say, I'm just doing my job, even though it's immoral or even though it's against humanity, so to speak, or against basically the cycle of life, right? And universal law, they'll say, oh, it's my job. But the Shiva aspect is Shiva's avatar was Vishnu. Vishnu is part of the pantheon of Vishnu, Brahma, and Shiva.
Yeah,
right.
So
the tribe, exactly. So the Vishnu aspect is basically like that Holy Spirit, so to speak, that would be in the Bible. And that Vishnu aspect of Krishna, right, being one with, and he's turned into Shiva towards the end, but Krishna also turns into Shiva in the Hindu mysteries in order for him, especially the Bhagavad Gita, in order for him to transform. And you saw that when he, of course, learned the Darkhold and tapped into his dark self and tapped into his inner fears or his inner shadow and realized that he could transmute that inner fear and that inner shadow. So even though he didn't get the book of Vishnu or Vishanti, which was the book of Vishnu, so to speak, and that was the goal, like in the first hour or so of the movie, where that was the goal, just to get that book to counter the Darkhold. It was like, nah, you can't just trust in being this holy roller. You can't just trust in this knowledge you have from the books. You can't just trust in book knowledge. You can't just trust in, you know what I'm saying, reading things. You know, your left brain.
You are the book. Yeah, you are the book.
You are the book.
Yeah,
you are the book, right? So you have to go into your fears. You have to go into your trauma. You have to see what it is that has been taking you off point, what it is that is powering your fears today, what it is that's powering your limits. And once you do that, right, you are now coming into a state of Christ consciousness for real, because without struggle, there is no progress. Without overcoming, there is no spiritual power. You will only be weak if you do not grow. That's like any tree here in nature. So that was my connection with that.
That was power. That was fire. When you dropped a little bit on me, and it made me think. And that's why I said, man, I need to watch that motherfucker at least 2 more times, man. But yeah, that was fire. Hey, I appreciate that, man. That was fire. And honestly, I appreciate you inviting me on this platform. You know, I know we build a lot on social media, but I appreciate you inviting me on, man.
Yeah, you're my resident genius, man. You're one of the reasons I'm even back on Facebook, which I told you. So you already know. I love your posts. I love the things that you write. I love the way you decode things. Also, let the people know about your book. Let the people know about your book, where they can find you, all those beautiful things.
I appreciate it. I am the author of The Occult Meaning of Masonry, Its Symbols, and the Chakra System. It's a book that you don't have to be a master Mason to read. I wrote it as a book of correspondence. Anybody interested in purchasing a copy, you can go to pillarbookpublishing.com, which is my website, or you can Google it and it'll shoot you to it'll shoot you to the site. If you want to find me on Facebook, Micheal Bell, it'll be this face is in the I keep my profile picture up just for that reason. On Instagram, I do have because I have my own publishing company, so Pillar Publishing is on Instagram, but you can find Micheal Bell as well under I Am Who I Think I Am. And again, you'll find my profile picture up to know that it's me. And I just say, if you do follow me on any social media format, you'll know that I drop jewels of immense laughter. What I try not to be is super serious. I always think about the movie with what's that, Above the Rim, when that man said it's serious, show. My man said, man, you need a hug. You know, I don't never want to be that serious that somebody say, man, you need a hug, because the bottom line is that this laughter, you know, we're here to experience it, not just the heavy, deep stuff, you know. Laughter is divine. But yeah, anybody interested, man, hit me up about the book. Also, man, I love to build. I'm gonna drop my email real quick. Anybody want to email me? My email is michealkbell@yahoo.com, michealkbell@yahoo.com. I'm always up to build. I have a lot of PDFs, you know, and if I don't have it, I could probably shoot you in the right direction or recommend the actual book. But yeah, man, Rob, feel free, invite me back on whenever.
Definitely.
I'll make the time.
No, you're going to definitely be a regular, man. I appreciate you giving me a time. I know you got to wrap this up. I'm going to wrap this up with you. I just want to say thank you, my brother. I appreciate you to the bottom of my heart. Now I know we have the Jehovah's Witness past connection. That's even crazier. So I'm gonna be emailing you too when I see certain things and getting your insight, and we'll go back and forth and continue to build and share knowledge. But you're definitely a friend of the show. You're definitely going to come back. Thank you for taking time out of your day, and I appreciate you. Family, if you are here, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button if you like this. I'm going to be going live again tonight, talking about this full moon, blood moon, super moon, solar eclipse. Even though we are alchemists and we use everything for alchemy, in cosmology, it teaches us that we follow the cycles of nature as well in order to access power, right? It's just like a farmer planting a seed. You plant seeds during certain seasons. So there's certain times in the month that you are able to plant seeds and harvest much more effectively than you would just on your own. All right, family? Not to say you can't harvest anytime during the year, but in order to maximize your harvest, these are the times that you want to tap into. So we'll tap into that tonight, family. Peace, power, prosperity, everyone. Rob Blackstorm, Micheal Bell, we out.